Guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video on the Audi A4. Now today's the day we're going to find out if I've bought a scrapper or a beauty of a car, and I think you can tell I've been a little bit busy. So in the last video we weren't this far ahead, so I have cracked on a little bit because I want to get this thing running. I want to get it through an MOT. So I've bought the majority of the parts now, not all of the parts. Some of the parts are quite expensive and hard to get hold of at the minute, but I bought myself a wing off another S-Line. It's a bit tatty here, and it's a different colour match, as you can see, but we can get that sprayed, that's not a problem. However, this is just a temporary wing. It's got a bit of rust on, and once rust hits there, you know, we don't want that on the car, so we're not going to put that on. And I've bought a new bonnet to go on, which we'll hopefully get on in today's video, but there's no guarantees in life. But the most important thing is to get this new hub on. Now what you haven't seen is me disassemble this full, the hub off the chassis, and I have got a spare hub which is going to get dragged out in a minute. We're going to strip it down together and we're going to get it installed. And the only issues I've really had is getting this back arm out at the back down there, but everything else was fairly straightforward. Now the wing, as you can see, I didn't realise the old S-Line to the new S-Line there is a different colour match, but I can get these sprayed for about 150 quid, so it's quite cheap. So I'm going to need to get this sprayed, the bonnet sprayed and the full bumper sprayed, which will need to be added to the total cost of our car, unless I can buy one online that work out cheaper than, let's say, 450 quid. So that being said, I think what I need to do is get this new hub dragged out, put it here, get it stripped down, and let's get it installed. Get it, watch. Oosh! Look at how heavy that thing is. Jeez. So I managed to pick up a full new hub assembly for 80 quid, which I don't think is too bad. So we're going to start by taking off the caliper first, because I only need to take these two arms and this hub and possibly this arm here, because the rest are not bent on mine, but I will keep them. So we start off by stripping down the full hub. Now this hub cost me 80 quid, which is cheap as chips. There is 2 Torx bolts in the back of the caliper which holds it onto the caliper carrier bracket. These are quite tight, so you'll need a little bit of muscle mat. And then you've got a front spring which needs to come off so the caliper can then come off the hub. Fairly straightforward, nice and easy. Might take a little bit of prizing just to get it off. Pads aren't actually too bad, but again they're just going straight in the bin. And then we started taking the caliper off. Now you'll notice there's a little rubber bung there behind the back of the caliper where the brake line goes. That sits inside the hub. Difficult to get out, but again we can sell the caliper and we'll make a couple of quid back, so we might as well. Lubing up the caliper carrier bolts, I always put a little bit of heat on there, because I think if you put heat on your bolts they come out a lot easier. Now you think about this being on the back of the car, it's going to be very hard to get to, very hard to crack off with just a spanner. So having some WD and having some heat together will warm them up, meaning the bolts will come out nice and easy. We've got the caliper carrier bracket off again. That's going to go on eBay. All these parts I take off are going to be resold back on eBay, and if you need any and you're in the northeast, give me a shout. I don't mind you taking any. Now next thing is to get the discs off. It looks like the pre-person before has rounded the hell out of that nut that sits to hold the disc on the hub, so we're just trying to put whatever we can inside there, a little bit bigger, just to get that screw out, and we did. So what I find doing best thing to do is with these drive shaft bolts is just give them a real good lube up. Now it's a 19mm, but first of all just set it on fire a little bit, give it a little bit of flames. Don't be floor setting on fire though, just warm that up. Remember, anything you heat up, right, means that it will come out a lot easier. So just add a little bit of heat, put your lock on there. Now it's a 19mm drive shaft bolt for these. Just struggling, give me a second. I don't want to break me And technically you should get this loose before you start assembling it, because it could be hard. It just comes out like so. That's actually quite a nice drive shaft, that. It's got a good bit of lube on the end, and you know what we like, lads? We love a little bit of lube. Ah, God, that is hot. Right, put that there, we'll keep that. So drive shaft should just pull out now, and if not, again, what you do, put your nut back in a little bit, give it a little tickle. The drive shaft should just pop out the back, like so. Maybe not, maybe it needs a little bit of needs a little wiggle, doesn't it? There you go. And there's your drive shaft out. Bosh. So we can probably sell that as well, which is starting to make us a little bit of cash back now, guys. So next thing we need to get off is this ball joint, this arm here. Rubber looks good on that, which is great, but we've already got one, so we don't need another one. So again, we shall pop that on eBay. It needs a wire brush, but we haven't got time for a wire brush.
And as you can see, guys, I'm ready to put the hub back in now. This has been fantastic, having a spare hub sat in the garage. You can strip down and understand exactly how everything goes together. Now, it's not as easy when the car is just on the stilts rather than the hub being out in front of you. It's not as easy, I'm not going to lie. However, if an IT guy can do this with a little bit of DIY knowledge, there's no reason why other people cannot do this. So if you're thinking about it, give it a try. I mean, I say this, I've got 3 other cars, so if I break one, I can take another. So it's very easy for me to say that, but like I say, you've got to start somewhere in this game, and you've got to start learning. So all we're doing here is trying to get the hub back on the bottom arm first, so I can rest it before I then get the top suspension into the top strut. But I've had some real difficulty with the bottom banana arm, because for some reason, the hub that's on the car now currently has a 12mm banana arm slot, or it's called a lower front arm if you're looking on eBay. Now this has got a 12mm hole, but the previous arm has a 14mm, so it wouldn't fit in. So I hit a massive challenge, therefore I had to stop recording, had to change the banana arm that came with the hub, which matches the same code as the other side, just with a different letter because it's a different ball joint on the end.
Right guys, it's the next day. It took me all day to get that somewhat ready to try and test drive it now. Disc, caliper, pads, new track rod end is in. What else have we got? New suspension, and I'm ready to see if she moves. So let's see if she fires up for the first time, and if the steering is not defunct. Now, remember the warning lights we had last time? Bonnet open, TPMS, steering wheel lights. Let's see what we've got. So we've still got a TPMS light. That must be inside the wheel, that TPMS light. There must be a sensor inside the actual wheel itself. We've got an airbag light on there again, that still remains, and we've still got a steering wheel light. But can we... No, look, steering wheel is absolutely smashed to pieces still. The steering will not go. There's got to be a fault on that electronic steering rack. There must be a fault. But let's move it anyway, because we all want to see it move, don't we? Which is a good start. How do I turn these controls on? Turn it on. Get it high. Right, make sure all the jack. So we all want to see it move. Yes, boys. So, we haven't moved it, but steering's so heavy. So, let me just park it up. So I think it's a part mission success, part mission failure, because we've got the car rolling, it goes back and forward, but there's no clunks now like it used to be when we had that old, dodgy tracker end that was tied up to bits. So, I think the next thing to do is I've got to do a little bit of research on these things, because it must be a problem with an electronic steering rack or something, because it will not move unless there's a fuse blown somewhere. But first of all, let's read the codes. She's beeping a little bit. Diagnosis, auto scan. Let's see what the scan tool brings back, guys. Engine control module, 1 fault, beautiful. Brakes, 2 fault, interesting. Access start authorization, 1 fault. Air conditioning, 2 faults. Electric central electric, 5 faults. Airbag, 1 fault. Instrument cluster, 1 fault. Power steering, 1 fault. Comfort system central. Wow. There's a fair out few in here, boys. Parking brake, 1 fault. It does come up with a parking brake, right. Well, let's have a look through. Engine control module. The engine management design, because the ambient air temperature sensor circuit is high. So there's a broken wire on the front bumper where that ambient temperature sensor must be. Now you'll notice as well, I've put the front bumper on temporary just to see how it looks, and I think you'll agree it's going to look fantastic once the car's back fully together. Forget that little bit of plastic hanging out, but I think you get the gist of it. Now you will have noticed I've got the new bonnet on, because you can see there's no dent, and literally it's 4 bolts to this side, and the bonnet opens and closes absolutely beautiful. Now that was off a B8 model, and this is a B8.5, but the bonnets are compatible, and so the S-Line wings off the B8s. So take that from me in case you want to save some pennies. But as I said, we've got some cable problems to fix.
So I did a bit of research last night and found these cables behind the back of the bumper. Now, this is the lower DRL light which sits at the bottom of the bumper, basically like your fog light, and that plug is still intact, so I'm happy with that. And luckily enough, I've cable tied the light into the back of the bumper because I want to see what it looks like, but also it works. I tested it, which is even better for me, saved me 100 quid. Then we've got the standard light, which is a standard one that goes at the back of the headlight. Yeah, we all know what that one is. I've got a crash sensor, I'm keeping that out the way for now so we don't damage it. And then this is the plug that goes onto the horn, and yeah, it's damaged, so again we're going to need to recrimp and terminate that. So this is our first jobs for today. So I actually recorded loads of voice content here for you guys, but unfortunately it didn't actually pick it up. So what I'm saying inside here is I've got the existing wires and I've got a new wiring loom from the scrapyard, and what I'm doing is just taking the old plug off, taking the old heads off, then I'm going to recrimp the 2 cables together. Now I was going to trace back the full wiring loom, but again, what's the point? It's just for a plug. So therefore I have got these waterproof crimping, and we crimp 2 wires together with them. Then what we do is put a little bit of heat on them just to warm them up, and basically it solders both them cables together. And then we have a little bit of sleeve over the top that we warm up, and that'll keep the cables protected. So once we've done that, we put the black sleeving over the top, get that nice and warm, and then what we do is we put the black plastic casing over the top, then we tape over the top of that just to make sure it's all nice and secure. You can see on the right hand side it looks pretty good. So on the left hand side now I'm working on the ambient temperature sensor module. Now that's been ripped out of the bumper or from somewhere, and I don't know where it lives, so I've got to find where that temperature sensor needs to go. But what we're doing now again is following the same process, crimping the cables. Once them cables are crimped, so that's that all done now. So we've got the new horn connector on there. I've just put a temperature sensor, I've just left it here dangling for now because I don't actually know where it lives. It must be somewhere, but again, until I get the light fitting, which goes in here, which is the black piece, which you can't see because that's temporary on, but there's a black unit just behind there. I need that black unit, and I need a headlight next. And then I think we've pretty much got the majority of the front end back to how it should. But I swapped the bonnet over, and anybody who knows me, I like to put clean things back on. It's an old bonnet, it needs cleaning, but it's got the old tatty cover on, and I want to get this back on there just to make that look a little bit more presentable. And then we're going to fault code this and see if we fix the ambient temperature and the horn, which are 2 jobs ticked off the list. And it looks 10 times better to me, but just the same to you guys. Let's check them codes. Right guys, let's check the codes. So if you haven't, I use one of these Autel code readers. Now this is not a sponsored video. I actually had to pay for this thing myself. Now she was expensive, but let me tell you, she does all makes and models of cars and vans up to 2023. Pretty much everything. And I wouldn't say it's vendor diagnostics level, but it isn't far away. Let's see if we fix them 2 codes. So let's scatter and see what she brings up. So now I'm not expecting an ECM. Oh, we've still got 1 fault. Might need to clear the codes first, though, mightn't we? Yes, we might need to clear the faults. Let's just let them run through first. So I was expecting the engine control module to be gone now. By golly gosh, we got some codes in here, boys. Come on. Tell you what, these things are just so slow, aren't they, when they're scanning? They need to just go beep, and then so you can like. So ECM, engine control module, right? That was the ambient sensor. Now I've put that new ambient sensor in, so that shouldn't be there anymore. Ambient air temperature sensor circuit high. I'm going to erase them codes. Ignition on and engine off. Of course it is. Yes. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn the ignition off. I'm going to turn the ignition back on, and we're going to quick erase all the codes. And now we've got no faults on the engine control module. Come on, we're 1 down, boys. We've got 1 fault on the brakes. That was 2 earlier on. 3 on the central electronics. That was 5. That noise is going to drive me insane. So now we're looking much better already. And I've done 2 things, a horn. So no, we've got nothing now. I've still got an EML light, but that might be because the airbag light's on, so that's fine. So I've got 1 fault on the brakes now. That's that TPMS sensor. Trouble codes. Power steering. That's why that one's coming up. That's fine. We're not too fussed about that. Go back. So literally, I've got no fault codes other than the electronic switch is the headlight, 'cause I need to get the headlight fixed. The brakes are due to the power steering. The power steering's due to a faulty power steering unit, which we're going to have to replace next, I think. We'll have to get that bought. It's quite expensive, a couple of £100. Control module faulty, so I need to probably get the control module off or take the full power steering rack out. And then we've got... So I need a headlight, I need a power steering rack, and potentially I need a new airbag. Now I'm not sure what this means. Comfort system central control module. Comfort system. Alarm horn faulty. Alarm horn faulty. Alarm horn faulty. Is that the one we just replaced? Because if it is, I've got a spare sat down there. Let's just erase that code. Alarm horn faulty. Now it could have been knackered in the crash, couldn't it? Comfort system central control module, and it said alarm. What did it say? Trouble codes. Alarm horn faulty. Alarm horn. Ah, okay, so that could be probably to do with the alarm going off. It's the siren that it makes. So one could be a horn and one could be an alarm horn. No idea. Sometimes you have no idea what these things are and you just need to do a little bit of research. But the most important thing now is we've got what looks to be a horn, and if it is, I've got one sat there, so I'll replace that. We then look like we've got a power steering rack that's gone, and we look like we need the headlights. So the headlight's a quick fix, that's a doddle. Headlight in the bracket, I need them. Power steering rack on the other hand is a bigger job. Now I've watched another lad do it on YouTube. You got to jack the car up on both sides, both wheels off, both track rod ends off both sides. Underneath, there's a brace, the brace comes off. It's all fairly straightforward and I could probably do it in a day. So I think, as well as the headlight, that's going to be the next thing to do. But what I like to make sure is that we're ticking something off the list every time we do it. I'm looking forward to me getting under the car and getting that power steering rack out. So guys, if you've enjoyed today's video, do me a massive favour and hit that like and subscribe button. It don't cost you anything. So all I can say is a big love from me. We need to get a headlight, a power steering rack, and something to do with a horn, TPMS, and I think we've fixed this Audi. We can get it in for an MOT. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Stay tuned and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.